what am I going to do this week that's going to make me better for next week so I can progress further.
Alright, so in this podcast, I spoke to England 7's international Megan Jones. Megan's had loads of really bad injuries over the last couple of years, so we go into detail about her mindset, about overcoming them, and we also go into some good detail about the 7's circuit and goal setting for a tournament as big as the Olympics. So some great content in here for everybody. Enjoy. If you just want to start off talking about your career today and how you progressed onto that international stage.
Cool. So I started playing rugby when I was about 5 or 6. There's actually a really good photo of me. My dad shaved my head originally, so I look like a little boy. So I went to it must have been about under 6 or under 7's, and they were like, oh, so I was born in Cardiff, and I went to Glamorgan Wanderers, which was the local club. Rough as houses, but honestly, great bunch of boys. So that always built character from the off anyway. But yeah, so went there when I was about 6, and I had a shaved head, and they were like, oh, that new boy Megan's good. That new boy Megan's good. And they soon realised I was a girl, and they were like, oh, we've got a girl on our team now. So yeah, built my sort of my rugby career from there. I went on to play Cardiff Schools under 13s and under 12s, which was at the Millennium Stadium. So like really big gig for me in terms of my career. I had this little red scrum cap. Was kind of cracking on with it with the boys, and we respected each other. So that was, regardless of me being a girl, there was always talk like, oh, she's a girl. But then when they watched me play, they were like, okay, fair enough. You're playing on the same par as us now. Obviously, boys get a little bit older, they get a bit bigger and stronger. So us girls, we gotta fly ship to the under 15s. And we start when we're like 13, so we're a lot younger. There's age grades with under 15s. You're kind of 14, 13, and 15 years of age within that bracket, and then you jump to under 18. So I was at Cardiff Quins for about must have been about four years up until I was about 16, and then I went to Hartbury College. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's in Gloucester, but yeah, renowned for his rugby and his Ace Academy. I was there for then 2 years, did my A-levels, and jumped into Gloucestershire County, played for them for a bit, and then South West, which was the division. And that was kind of to go through the RFU pathway. My mum's from Bristol, so that allowed me to kind of explore that, which was really good. Just in terms of why I picked England instead of Wales was just solely because selfish reasons, but just how the setup was, and I could kind of see that from an early age. And my dad sat me down, sat with my mum as well, and just kind of spoke about what was going to be the best suitable pathway for me. And it seemed to be that England was the setup to go. So I went through all the age grade stuff with all the divisional and county stuff with England, and got picked up then when I was about 17 to do some 7's with the England girls, and it was at the Euros, which was in Brive in France. So yeah, I got my first cap there and my taste of what women's rugby was about, because I never really played much senior stuff. In fact, I played for Bristol, and my first game I dislocated my shoulder. So it kind of just showed the step from under 18s to senior in terms of the physicality side. So I went from girls to women, and it was really obvious. So yeah, dislocated my shoulder then in Bristol game. So that kind of put me out for a bit after I just earned my first cap. But I was still in and out of the setup, and then yeah, I jumped to 15s for a bit, and that was solely how the funding fell. You went kind of where 15s and 7's went. Did my bit in 15s, played Canada, who else? Australia, and those were kind of the series leagues. And then went on to 7's, where I went as a travelling reserve to the Olympics, which was really cool. Yeah, an amazing experience. And got to see, the ins and outs of what it was all about, the talks amongst the group. And I was quite a senior group at the time, which is very different to how we are now. But you could just tell, and the experience would kind of buzz out of that room. whereas something we kind of lack as a team now. But the more we play together, the better we become, because those girls have been playing rugby since, for 14, 15 years together. So it was really evident for how they were playing. And that's where we're trying to build to get to now. So that was an amazing experience. And then went over to 15s again following year to do the World Cup in Ireland. And we unfortunately came second to New Zealand in the final. But in terms of personal experience, had a really good innings in terms of the World Cup. It was amazing because my dad was there, could come watch. So really enjoyed that. And yeah, now I find myself my third year, I think, now consistently with the 7's. But yeah, picked up a bronze Commonwealth Games medal. We managed to get first World Series medal in Kitakushu, Japan, which we earned a silver since 2015, 2016, something like that, which was amazing for us because it was literally a new bunch of girls. I think there was one girl, our captain, Abby Brown. She was the only one that's kind of had a World Series medal. So that was amazing as a group. And then now find myself, twiddling my thumbs waiting for an Olympics, but hopefully being part of this one. But yeah, so that's about it really, and that's kind of where I'm at.
So was that the plan for this summer? Obviously, was the Olympics that kind of thing you was working towards?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so we had the extended squad and stuff, which must have been about 25 of us, which was really cool. We link up with Wales and Scotland, obviously, GB, and it's really cool because it's such a unique environment. You can't build that anywhere else. No other nation will build that. And in terms of training numbers, it was phenomenal. We were able to play 7-on-7 and rotate another 7 in. So that was amazing in terms of learnings. But unfortunately, we couldn't fulfil that. We had a couple more lined up, but with it next year, it only gives us another year to kind of build on that block. So hopefully, when that time comes, we'll be guns blazing. So
yeah, definitely. So stick with the 7 stuff. Obviously, I think you mentioned that the tournament in Japan there. Obviously, a big part of it is the travelling. How does the kind of schedule kind of look for yourselves with all the travelling and your training, and then obviously the actual game days within there? What does the kind of lead up to a tournament actually look like?
So our blocks are normally within 6 weeks. So we have a 6-week block. And in essence, that'll be we'll have an end goal, which is essentially Tokyo, or, in some years, last year was qualifying for the Olympics. So we'll have blocks amongst stepping stones towards that goal. And in each block, it'll be around, certain aspects that we want to develop. So we'll have robustness, and that'll be looking around, making our body stronger, whether that's in the breakdown, tackle, running wise. Can we tolerate the amount of running we're doing? Because we're running at a high speed for a long period of time. How can we sustain that and basically not get injuries along the way? Because we have now 8 tournaments, which is amazing for us girls. Just 2 short of the boys, so we're nearly there. But yeah, it was just about kind of building us up and getting to that robust level of fitness. There was a weird statistic, and it was crazy, and it was around something about the speed of the game. It moved on by 110% since the following season. So everyone's fitness and duration of the game was it just ramped up again. And since the 2016 Olympics as well, it just ramped up. So yeah, we'd have a 6-week block. They were kind of measured in those ways, and it'd look around attack, defense principles, and something that we were aiming to fulfill in that tournament. And that might be set piece, certain things like that. So how the tournaments work, we have back-to-back with some of them, and they coincide with the men's as well. But our first one's Glendale, which is a single held tournament. And that, because it's start of the season, that's normally about just getting the ball rolling, getting us into groove, and kind of seeing where we're at as a squad, particularly just coming off the back of holidays and stuff. And particularly this season as well, we just had the qualification, so that was good. And then we went into Dubai, Cape Town. Cape Town was new on the block, so that was good to have a look around there. And again, another 6-week block. The longest one I think is about 8 weeks between each tournament. And then if we had we had Hamilton and Sydney, and then our next game was Hong Kong, which was an 8-week block, and that was looking at, being at the peak of our performance for then. So you kind of use some of the series legs as stepping stones towards your goal, as you've discussed as a group. And then after Hong Kong, I think we go on to Langford, which is Canada, and then Paris, which is also a cool leg. And what else do we have? We have another one. I think that's it. Is that 8? It might be 8. But yeah.
Really interesting point of view from that, actually. Sorry, you was going to just quick.
No, I was just saying those are the 8 we have.
Yeah, just the way you've spoken about that and seeing it from the stepping stones kind of view. One of the things I talk about a lot with the people we work with is about kind of looking at your calendar and it's not disrespectful to anyone else, but to team. Sorry, but looking at a game and saying, right, they're a first or a second division. That's a first or second division team. We need to make sure we're shit hot for that day versus, right, we can maybe be in second gear for that game. So, and implement your training on a week by week basis for those specific games. So it's interesting they're saying, right, you've got these stepping stones in tournaments for that kind of one big picture.
Yeah.
Really interesting perspective. So for you personally, like, what do you kind of do yourself, or maybe away from the team? Is there anything, or because I don't know how much time you spend together as a squad? Yeah. Is it a lot, or?
So our week is Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays recovery day, then Thursday, Friday as well. So we have Saturday and Sunday off as well. But yeah, I live with Abby Brown, so we're all mates around this. It's not kind of separate. It's not office jobs. So we have to live and breathe what each other do. So we see each other a lot, and I think this time we were kind of like, oh, nice. Like, it's nice to have a break, like away from each other, because if you think about it, it's kind of like seeing your family members for too long, and you're like, I love you, but there's breathing space, and we need that. So that's important to remember as well. But yeah, in terms of the week and stuff, and what it looks like for us, we drink a lot of coffee. A lot of professionals drink coffee, and there's a niche market out there for having a portable coffee shop right outside a clubhouse. I'll tell you that. But yeah, so we drink a lot of coffee, play a lot of games, just pass time. Our days range from around 8 to 3, so there's not particularly long days, but they are packed. So you've got gym, you've got a rugby session, you might have a mental skills session, and then you also might just have meetings around that analysis stuff. And then thankfully we have food provided for us, so we have lunch together and just talk amongst each other with that. But yeah, preparing myself for each, I guess, block, or like what I do outside the game, it's not a lot, because you've got to live and breathe this stuff if you want to be at the top level. You do little things to keep you sane. That's family, talking to other people outside of the programme, but also just keeping yourself checked of what else you're going to do. But I have a passion in rugby, so I've just got my level 2 coaching. So hopefully you can pursue sort of a career down there, explore that option a little bit more. But when you're playing and you're in it a lot, you do get sucked into the realm of it. So it's just understanding like where you are with your career, what you see yourself doing after. And I think it's having those clear plans for yourself. For me, I do worry about the future, because I know how easy it is to get sucked in. I'm only 23, but so you might be like, oh, but it's fine, you'll sort it out. But for me, I just kind of want to be, I want to be settled. I want to know what I'm doing, because I know this lifestyle isn't forever. I'm trying to make as many contacts as I can outside of the rugby world or inside the rugby world, but using it as well as a platform to broaden yourself outside of the game. But yeah, listen to music. That's key drive. Kick a football about. That's quite fun. Mix it up a little bit. Weird shaped ball, but we'll cope with that. But yeah, so that's it really. Like, people think we live a crazy life, but a lot of it is just about rugby, and coffee.
I think you definitely got along the right path. I think actually the time that we're in now with this, obviously the pandemic that's going on, is a big time of realization even that nothing is safe. Like for me, particularly from a career standpoint of view, I've realized that actually how vulnerable probably my whole career is and how I need to do stuff away. And that's kind of like how this was built. So you've, even at 23, I mean, I'm in a couple of years ahead of you, but you've definitely along the right path, and it's better doing that earlier rather than getting to like 35 and coming towards retirement and thinking, oh shit.
Yeah, what I do now, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So no, definitely going along the right path. Talking about obviously your age, you are relatively young within your career, but you've been around the game obviously for a long time. Talking about on that international stage, since you spent time within that, have you seen a shift in the physicality of the sport and also the skill of the sport as well as the game progresses on the women's side of things?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, since I've started, like I said, that jump from under 18s to women's was just like phenomenal. I didn't experience anything quite like that. Plus, when you're playing under 18s, all you do is attack most of the time. And if you're half decent, just because of the standard of the game at the moment, well, back when I was, but it's so good to see how much the game has moved on, and it's so evident. And this kicking game starting to get immersed. People are using that to, playing a game of chess, especially in 15s, and you see that on the 7's circuit as well. I'll have to highlight New Zealand 7's just because of their skill set and kind of what they do, but their awareness around the ball and where their players are. They're throwing backhand passes, they're throwing passes above their heads. So yeah, the game's massively moved on. I think people need to consider, especially when I always relate it back to the men's, and we always compare. Oh, but the men's are doing that, the women are doing that. That's how quick the men are running. It's all relative to the gender, but also we have only been professional as like worldwide, and since 2014 in England. In the men's game, it's been professional since 1996, probably a little bit before then. The backhanders, little pay slips. Yeah, we know how it works, but that's the reality of it. We are 10, 14 years behind. 14 years behind of the men's game. So a lot of our stuff is we're still trying to develop the skill stuff. So we are making huge jumps in terms of tackling. You're watching, the Cleo sisters on the 15s game. They're making big hits. Sarah Byrne, the like probably the 21st century prop of the women's game. We're seeing big collisions, big hits, handoffs, rucking and mauling just is insane. So understanding that of where the men's game is compared to women's is different, but also the leaps and bounds that the women's game's doing is moving at a rapid rate. So you have to keep developing. There's no shortcuts, and I know one of the things for sure is that you can't. I'm probably speaking for other people, but for myself, how I've seen it is that no day is kind of a rest day anymore. You have to do little things because there's so much competition coming up underneath you. There's girls picking up the ball from the age of 6 now. That's only gonna help the progression of the game. Physicality in terms of speed, kicking game, skill set. It's just going to be amazing. So you have to realise that you have to keep the foot on the gas pedal. Otherwise, you're going to be knocked back as soon as you hit a certain age, and you're only providing one thing. There's none of this running in one direction and being a big girl anymore. You've got to be athletic across the whole park. You've got to show some sort of skill set within your handling. You've got to show different diversities of your game, if you want to be at the top end. And yeah, credit to Sarah Byrne. I'll probably give her one of the medals for that because she's doing a good job. But also, I can relate back to the Kiwis. Their front row are doing the same thing, being physical, but also providing the skill set for your backs as well. So there's been a huge shift, and I think that's really clear when you keep watching the game. But when you do watch the game, you do have to have a consideration of some of these girls have only picked up the ball for 4 or 5 years, and they're still providing athletic, amazing athletic attributes. So that's also important to consider as well.
Yeah, I think you made some great points there. So like, I work around the women's game anyway, so it's something that I'll always watch it. And what the points that you just made there, I can completely agree with. So the first point about the physicality, the one thing that I notice about the women's game is it seems that in the men's game sometimes, probably more when it's maybe that 1 to 8, sometimes people probably are there on a skill basis and physicality is not really there. 1 to 15 in the women's game, every single one of them are athletes. That's what it seems like when you watch it. The second point you made about the kicking, 100%. I watched the highlights of, might have been when you girls played Spain, I think. And your 10 made a crossfield kick into the corner.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, just stuff like that. I mean, and it's like you say, there'll always be people who are dicks basically and compare it, but I mean, the skill's there and it's a great game to watch. And then the next point that you said about younger girls picking up the ball is exactly you've hit the nail on the head. Like, people are going to be coming through the system now that've been playing rugby for 15 years, so it's only going to get better. A point that I wanted to elaborate on was you said they're kind of like this no rest day mentality, which I think, I completely agree with. So say like you've had a really stressful week, you've trained a lot, you've been given a Wednesday that's a rest day, so you're probably not going to want to do anything too physically demanding. What might those things that you do?
On a rest?
What might be the things that you do on a rest day that's, you're still working on your game?
Yeah. So it obviously depends on the type of week we've had. Sometimes we do kicking on those days, so it's really low level, hour of kicking, drop kicks, mainly conversions and stuff. Obviously the 7's game. So yeah, might do an hour of that. Sometimes it might be, jumping in the pool and kind of getting some sort of body flow through us and just flushing ourselves ready for tomorrow, because Tuesdays and Thursdays tend to be our heavy days. So it's quite important to recover in those days. Getting the right amount of fuel on board. So food-wise, what we'd eat in terms of getting that in. Is it we're chugging down a cherry active before bed just to get some good night's sleep, etc. But sometimes, those days it might just be as simple as staying off your feet and staying in bed, just because the load that your body goes through, it needs that rest, neurally, physically, mentally. All those things need to be rested. So like this shout out to everyone who's playing pro level, but you need to understand that you can do that, and that is possible. But it is understanding when you need to do that, and I think that's the important bit. And particularly in pro sport, is understanding your body and what works for you, what doesn't. Having 6 protein shakes isn't going to particularly make you stronger. Understanding when to take them, when to consume them, what's the best time, what's the best type, how much of it, should I put water, should I put milk, is all those little components that you've got to consider. So yeah, on those rest days, it varies depending on what my body needs. So I like the pool. I think that's a huge benefit for me, just in terms of my injuries and stuff. So trying to keep on board with them, stay robust. It might be as simple as just doing some proprioception stuff, and just keeping on top of that. But yeah, nothing too wild.
Cool. So building on from the point you said there about injuries, it kind of goes in well with my next question, which was going to be, is there anything from a physical standpoint that you want to work on? So maybe that goes hand in hand with the injuries that you've currently struggled with.
Yeah. So do you want me to list my injuries?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. How long is it?
Yeah, exactly. I'll kind of pick up my main ones. 2 dislocations in my right shoulder, ACL, and then I've had ankle reconstruction and stuff. So little bits like that. But yeah, biggest one obviously is ACL. But my shoulder was actually the biggest test of my character. I was 18, so I literally wasn't old at all. So it was about getting that mental resilience from a young age, and understanding that I'm in this setup, and I've got to kind of I've got to make my way through the whole setup without getting all these niggles and stuff. What was the second bit of the question? Sorry.
I forgot. Oh no, I remembered. Is there anything from a physical standpoint you want to work on? So like,
yeah,
going hand in hand with those injuries, how are you going to work on them?
Yeah, of course. So a lot of it is around strength and tolerating different like your body at different ranges. Proprioception is my godsend, and I'll shout out to my number one physio, Barney. He's a clever bloke, but a lot of it is around proprioception and understanding that even when your eyes are closed, you know where your body is. So is spatial awareness, and that's a big thing, particularly in my game. Just, especially fly half, no look passes, sidestepping, offloading, but not knowing where the ball is, but you know where it is consciously, stuff like that. Acceleration, out of trouble, getting those things into your game. So that's kind of a big one for me, which is acceleration and getting myself out of trouble. I'm not particularly the biggest pack, but I fight as much as I can. So at 5'4", trying to get myself out of trouble is probably the best bit for me. And if I had to improve, if I was to improve my game, I'd be working on. I'm working on my acceleration stuff just to get myself out of trouble and be prepared to offload, get out of it, pass the ball on to someone else. One of my speedsters.
So with such big injuries, so obviously you said your shoulder was probably the most challenging, but then obviously an ACL is one of the worst you can have as well. How have you been able to deal with those injuries yourself? Obviously, like spending time away from the playing squad, because rehab crews are these small, tight-knit groups, as anyone that's around the sport will know. So how do you deal with those massive injuries and being away from actually playing?
So with my shoulder, it was a quick realization of how important the network are around you and who's going to help you get you back on the field, but also understanding that you've got to put the hard graft in. I was lucky enough to go to the IRU, which is essentially a rehab unit where it's lottery funded. So a lot of GB athletes go, and there's only 3 or 4 of you at a time, and it's very individualized. And so you get S&C, physio, soft tissue, mental, psychology, nutrition, and it's just one-on-one, sort you out. You're there for a week or 2. I think I must have spent about 4 or 5 weeks in there. And it's about getting you strong for the next phase of your rehab. So a big shout out to network that's around you, and that's going to help you stay motivated and push you in the right direction. And also just having a clear goal. And I mean, I don't necessarily mean the end goal. How I've been working is a lot on week by week basis. So what am I going to do this week that's going to make me better for next week so I can progress further? So particularly with my ACL, and I think it's a big, what's the word? Big emphasis on, I guess, the shoulder work I did was just around, right, these are my goals, step by step, week by week. How am I going to fulfill them? What's going to make me get there? And it was around, nutrition stuff, staying on board, making sure I'm 100% focused when I'm doing each exercise. But also you've just got to put in the sweaty work, and if that means you're crying at the end of the day, you're crying, and you've got to accept that these injuries, you're also going to be up and down every single day, particularly if they're long term. But also there's always an end goal. Things always work out, and that's the kind of mindset you've just got to have. So it's a huge mental battle in terms of what's going to push me through this. But understanding I've got this network around me, I've done everything I can possibly do, I've put in the hard graft, everything will sort itself out. And you can't fault hard work, and I think that's a big thing that comes out of injuries. If you put the hard work in, it shows. You come back on the pitch firing again, you're looking fitter, you're looking stronger, you've got quads, you've got biceps, you've got everything then, and the people are looking, you're like, fucking hell, sorry, yeah, she's come back. She's looking twice as 3 times as strong, faster, fitter, and that's the mark you've got to set yourself. You've got to go, I've got this big injury, it's the challenge I've been given. How am I now gonna show people that I've done a difference? If that means having physical attributes that look different, and that's what's going to motivate you, then you do that. For example, I think biceps and shoulders was like my main focus on my ACL rehab, just because it looked good, and I was like, yes, pumping the iron, and it's getting that pump. So that was, although my knee was my focus, but it was also about, like, I want to feel good and look good when I come back. but yeah, so it's I think network would be my main headline for that.
Yeah, I think you made some great points there, especially the one about obviously there is going to be ups and downs with it. I mean, injuries are shit. The word you said there was improvement, the one that I picked up on. So rehab is seen as this thing that is really tedious at times. And at times it can be, as you'll definitely be aware of the injuries that you've had. But if you flip it on its head and see it as, right, I can improve other aspects of my game here, whether it is, your upper body development or off your conditioning stuff, depending on your injury, then that's what you should focus on, because it is a positive.
Yeah,
I think at times people do, and it is a process that is, there's a lot of downs in it, but if you do flip it on its head, you can improve at the other end of it. So yeah, I think that was a great point. Talking about kind of coming out the other end of it and maybe not always working towards that end goal, but it's kind of always going to be there. It's going to keep you going. So for you now, obviously we said earlier, you're 23, still got many years of playing ahead of you, touch wood. Where do you kind of want to take your game? What is there any things that you don't have to say? If there's something that's you keep it to yourself because that's the way it drives, that's fine. But is there anything that you want to, the boxes you want to tick in your career?
Yeah, I would like to win an Olympic medal. That's kind of obvious. I'd like to go back to 15s at some point. That's always been the bread and butter of my game. I've 15s from a young age, and I do enjoy that aspect. Like, don't get me wrong, love the 7's and how tight knitted the group are. Like, it's a very small group in comparison to 15. So, there's different pros and cons to that. But yeah, like, you kind of just take each week, but also each year as it comes, because you don't know when your contract's going to finish, and if you're going to get a new one, how it's going to look. It might not actually be appealing to you. So you do what you have to do in terms of living, and also what's going to push you and grow you individually, just as much as you would as a group. So yeah, in terms of my aspirations, they're very rugby related and all big stage stuff, like they should be. So those are part of my careers that I'd like to address at some point. And if the shoe fits at that point, then I'll take it. If it doesn't, then I'll stick with what I'm doing. But yeah, we'll see how that one goes at some point.
It's perfect. I mean, I think you made some great points today. The stuff you've spoken around, the injury stuff, I think people are going to get a lot from that.
Yeah.
And then also just being able to listen to kind of like how the lifestyle of, the 7's tournaments is. It's just really interesting to hear, and I know that people are going to get a lot from it. So really appreciate your time.
No worries.
Thank you very much.